or TaylorvilleDailyNews.com.
Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
Once again, good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show is streaming to Facebook and YouTube. It's brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. My guest on the phone today, Mrs. Mary Vogt, is the superintendent of Bement Schools. Mrs. Vogt, how are you on this Veterans Day?
Seth, I am wonderful. How are you today?
Doing good. Thanks for asking. Thanks for making time for us as well. I know Veterans Day, especially for the districts that are in school, can be particularly busy, so we appreciate you making time with us. And just get us started, Mrs. Vogt, with what your district is doing as it relates to honoring veterans and, making sure that kids know the importance of their stories and their experiences.
Absolutely. So the process started a few weeks ago. Our middle school and high school students participated in an essay writing contest sponsored by the local American Legion. So we had 3 students whose essays were selected as winners. That will be announced today during our assembly that will start at 10 o'clock this morning. We've had a chance to work with our local veterans and provide them with the opportunity to come celebrate with us and our students. We also, our art students have done a phenomenal job creating the emblem for each of the branches of the military to have on display in our gym as our guests come in. And Seth, I'm particularly excited. I won't reveal the name just yet, but I had parents of some of my current students contact me a few weeks ago to say that her son is coming home from basic training, and he got home last night, and his sisters don't know that he is home yet, and so we will get to share that with his sisters today in our program. And it just, I'm really looking forward to it because this young man has been away since July. His sisters have only seen him once in that time. He's a recent graduate from Bement High School. So to be able to tie it together for our students that we have these veterans that possibly served in the Korean War, Desert Storm, so many things that we read about in history, but now here's somebody who has just committed to serving our country and just tying it together. We're living in a time where things are so uncertain and we just don't know what could happen next. And so I like that we are in school today. I like that our students will all have a chance to learn what Veterans Day is, to learn that maybe somebody they see at the grocery store has served our country. So I remember when I was a young child and we always had Veterans Day off. I can't say that my family necessarily focused on the importance of Veterans Day when we were out of school. So I'm glad we are able to provide this opportunity for our students.
Yeah, and it's funny. I had a veteran in earlier this week talking about an event that they're doing for the community here this weekend. And after we got done, we were talking about it feels like our young people don't. I don't want to say they don't appreciate the freedom we have because I'm sure there's many that do, but I think the experiences of our veterans and the things they went through to ensure and maintain the freedoms that we enjoy today, I feel like there is just so much underappreciation and lack of awareness for those things anymore.
Seth, that's such a great point. We talk about the younger generations. It's like a need for instant gratification and, maybe lack of motivation at times. And, is that because they have not lived through a time where there has been a major conflict? They haven't lived through a time where, now, mind you, quarantine felt like we were all trapped and couldn't go anywhere, but we still had all of the comforts of home.
I think you are onto something that I've felt for a long time. Freedom in America has not been challenged to a great degree like it was, in World War II. I mean,
Yes.
I know 9/11 was, somewhat of a probably that type
Mhm.
of a moment for a lot of people, but it,
Yes.
it was like anything else in kind of the 21st century. It came and went, and obviously the events, the world events after that, in terms of America's involvement in Afghanistan and all those things. But it just feels like there hasn't been that global threat to freedom in a very long time. And so I feel like a lot of people just don't appreciate the fact that we have largely lived in a peaceful time for so long.
We have, and you bring up 9/11. I feel like it's like most things, in our modern times. Yes, it was challenging. Yes, it was scary, but it's almost like we fast forwarded through it. Like,
Hmm.
we
Hmm.
were against, um, you know, airlines weren't going for what, a week maybe. I mean, it wasn't very long. Yes, procedures have changed as far as safety with air travel, but again, we're we're not having to hide in our houses.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
yes, we've been inconvenienced in recent times, but yeah, Seth, you're exactly right. We have not been challenged. Not that I want to be, not that I want that for our students to gain that appreciation, but I think it's important that we continue talking about it. And
Yeah, yeah.
you know, I had a little bit of that opportunity a few weeks ago. We had our Bement alumni dinner, and we had a gentleman here from the class of 1944, and to talk with him about his story and his experiences, it was absolutely incredible. I mentioned, I think, in our first interview, my great grandparents moved to Bement from Ireland. I met a couple of people who remember my great grandparents, and they
Hmm.
were able to tell me stories about my great grandpa being the constable in Ivesdale, and some of the challenges he had, being the constable of that town in those times. So I love that we are able to give our children, our students, the chance to meet the people who can share the history firsthand,
Right.
who know the.
Mary Vogt, Superintendent of Bement Schools, my guest on the phone for today. I'm glad you went there, Mrs. Vogt, because that's what I was hoping to get to next is how do you make history and the encounters are better. It's one thing to read about it in a book and to see pictures of, artifacts at maybe the Smithsonian Institute or various, well-known museums across the country. It's one thing to see those things, kind of secondhand, digitally, if you will, but making it real for the students. Is that why for you it's important that students come to school on Veterans Day so you can highlight the people in your communities, maybe the grandparent of a student, a student in your district, and that's a friend of someone and that sort of thing. They can tell that story. Is that why it's important for you to be in school on a day like today?
Absolutely. And the pride that our students have when somebody they know is being recognized as a veteran, it's just second to none. Our kids want people to know that they are friends with a veteran or they are related to a veteran. And I had an experience at the beginning of the week. We had some Army recruiters stop by just so that they could introduce themselves to our guidance office and set up some times where they could come back into the school. And it was during a passing time. Every student, unprompted, walked by that group of recruiters and told them, "Thank you for your service."
Mm-hmm.
If I don't know because we have been in school on Veterans Day, but I have to think we have taught our students, and I'm hoping parents have also taught, but I know we have taught our students, when you see a veteran, when you see somebody who is a current service man or woman, you thank them. You thank them for your time. You thank them for your sacrifice and acknowledge them for what they have done for our country.
Mm-hmm. No question. No question. So again, Mrs. Vogt, anything else going on today in Bement schools as it relates to Veterans Day and the things that you're doing with the kids? Anything like that?
So we do have activities happening in the classrooms as well. Teachers making sure that their individual classes are able to talk, and we also have our high school band is marching in the Piatt County Veterans Day Parade this evening at 7 o'clock in Monticello. So we're happy to have our band representing us for that parade. And then another thing that we are trying to get the word out, it started during COVID. We're trying to build our Bement Veterans Wall of Fame. And what we're asking is any graduate of Bement High School who has served in the military, if they could get a picture of them in uniform to us, and then we will collect the information from them, just as far as their branch of service, rank, dates of service, and whatnot. But we are building a Bement High School Veterans Wall so that we can continue honoring those who have served. So when I came here and I learned about that, I have two great uncles who graduated from Bement High School, and I saw their pictures weren't up there. So then asking how do you find out who to include in that wall? That's where I got that information. All the families have to do is provide a picture, and we'll do the rest. So I think it's like I said, continuing that legacy.
No question. Very good, Mrs. Vogt. How do folks follow along and learn about all things Bement Schools, all the things you have going on?
Well, they can find us at www.bement.k12.il.us.
Mary Vogt is the superintendent of Bement Schools, my guest on the phone this morning. More to come with her on the WHOW Morning Show.
WHOW.
DeWittDailyNews.com is the area's leading local news source 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Get the latest local news, obituaries, police blotter, weather forecast, and more with no paywall. Head to DeWittDailyNews.com to get the local information you need to know.
For the latest in Central Illinois agricultural news, visit IllinoisFarmRadio.com. Get updated information on markets, weather, ag news, local interviews with NAFB farm broadcaster Jared White, and much, much more. All at IllinoisFarmRadio.com.
Warner Hospital providing ENT health and otolaryngology services to DeWitt County with Gibson Area Hospital and Dr. Jonathan Glickstein. Your ENT health is important, and Dr. Glickstein is an experienced otolaryngologist specializing in ear, nose, and throat conditions and head and neck surgery, dedicated to excellence in patient care for the best ENT services. Now seeing patients at the Warner Specialty Clinic in Clinton. To book your appointment in Clinton, call 217-784-2808.
In addition to great radio marketing, the Miller Media Group now offers a full suite of digital marketing solutions. Our affordable programs include custom web design and SEO to help you get found on Google. Seeking more inbound web and store traffic? Our Facebook, YouTube, and geo-targeted marketing programs are all designed to make your cash register ring. To get started, call your Miller Media account manager or go to mmgdigitalnow.com. Miller Media Digital, where digital becomes local.
Let's swing open the farm gate together every day on WHOW. I'm Stu Ellis, your host of the long-running agriculture feature called The Farm Gate. I bring the latest news and information on where agriculture is and where it's going to WHOW Ag listeners several times a day. From tariffs to treaties, from the Board of Trade to the running board on your truck, I cover Central Illinois agriculture every day on The Farm Gate. Hear it all on WHOW's many platforms, on the radio or online. Join me, Stu Ellis, for The Farm Gate.
Your friend in Central Illinois. WHOW.
Once again, a good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. My guest in this segment of the morning show is Mrs. Mary Vogt. She is the superintendent of Bement Schools. And Mrs. Vogt, let's talk a little bit. I was introduced to a concept you're going to talk about with us here for this morning by Mrs. Cheryl Warner at Warrensburg Latham Schools a few weeks back about just collaborating with other schools in the event events of emergency where if students need a safe haven, transportation, whatever the case may be, you all will be working together. Talk about what this is all about. Kind of where does it stem from, if you will?
Yes, absolutely. So our regional superintendent, Jill Reedy, has brought districts together throughout Macon and Piatt counties to work on plans. Years ago, it was always the focus of if there's an intruder in the building and how to respond. But especially with some of the more recent incidents, there has been a shift in the focus to how do we reunify students with their parents? What do we do after the incident? Because I don't know about you, but if I found out my children were involved in something like that, I would want to get to them immediately. And so that's where we are working together, our district and Cerro Gordo and Monticello, because we're in close proximity to each other. We are working together to create a plan where if there were an incident here in Bement, and Seth, I'm talking about anything from, it could be an intruder, it could be somebody dangerous, it could be, we have train tracks that go just a block north of the school. Maybe there's a train derailment with a chemical spill.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's a tornado that comes through town, just something that would cause us to need to relocate our students. And at any given moment, we don't have enough buses in Bement to transport all of our students out of town. So we're working with Cerro Gordo and Monticello on a memorandum of understanding that if there's an event in any of our three communities, we would send buses to help relocate those students to get them out of the area of danger.
Mm-hmm.
And that area will be away from our schools, because if there's an active shooter and we have law enforcement coming to the school, we don't want parents coming to the school to pick up their children. That would really create a mess. So we are in the process of working on a plan. Our students do dismiss at noon today. We have a school improvement afternoon for the staff. And so for our staff today, we are participating in ALICE training through the Piatt County Sheriff's Office.
Mm-hmm.
So ALICE training, it teaches the staff what to do. You go on alert, you lock down, and then ultimately, sorry about that.
That's okay.
But ultimately, if you're able to get your students out of the school, away from the school, then where do we go from there, and what do we do from there?
Mm-hmm.
If you have to stay locked down, if it's not safe for you to leave, then what do you do? How do you know when it is safe to come out?
Right.
So that collaboration with districts throughout the county, Superintendent Warner at Warrensburg-Latham, she and I have been part of the same meetings, and I think we would all agree this has been a long time coming. It's unfortunate that we have to think about what to do in any of these situations, but we want to make sure our students are safe and our parents know where to find them so they can be reunited.
Sure. Very good. Yeah. It's interesting how the evolution of planning for those types of events, kind of continues to unfold. And, I'm curious, is there, Mrs. Vogt, like an incident that took place? I'm blanking on the community in Texas last year that dealt with or earlier this year, I guess. It stem from that? Is this just something like a hole in the planning that's kind of been discovered? How about those things?
I think it was Uvalde, Texas.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Nobody wants to be on the news for mishandling an emergency situation at all, ever. So we have learned from that situation. Our school resource officer, Deputy Lindsay Bross, attended a school resource training in Colorado over the summer. So she works for districts in Piatt County. We all chipped in to help pay for her to attend that training. And it was at that national training where she was able to attend a session that did talk about this, that talked about what to do after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
And so She's actually married to Rob Ross, who's the Piatt County emergency manager. So they were both at that training. Rob has come back and presented to agencies throughout Piatt County. So school districts, law enforcement, villages, municipalities, because we do all need to work together to make sure our students are safe. That's something that I had never thought about before. So as we have law enforcement coming into town, working with our village employees so that they can set up roadblocks so that people don't keep coming to town. Bement is, people travel through it on Route 105 pretty frequently. We don't need innocent people coming in while we're trying to manage a dangerous situation.
Right.
So working with the village so that they can manage the traffic coming in through town. Again, working with those other school districts. If there was an event here in Bement, as superintendent and my building principals, we would stay here to help make sure that law enforcement has access to our cameras, make sure they have access. Yes, we have a box where they can get keys, but there might be that one unusual place they can't get into. So then those administrators in our neighboring school districts would go to our reunification area to support our staff in that process of reunifying with parents.
Gotcha.
And I mean, we're all Monticello, Cerro Gordo, and Bement. We have a common reunification location. So all three districts will use the same reunification area. And at this point, we're in the process of ironing out that memorandum of understanding.
Gotcha.
But we have one place to learn that way for the 3 districts.
Well, Mrs. Vogt, I hate to do this to you. I've got to let you go. That's great information, as always, that you bring to us. That's, again, Mrs. Mary Vogt, Superintendent of Bement Schools, my guest on the phone. The morning show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Network News is next.
WHOW.
With SRN News, I'm Rich Thomason. President Biden's student loan forgiveness plan is